So I'm going to start with a little bit of an intro because I haven't done Coffee and Games in a while. And so this is the second Coffee and Games in about a week. I actually had Mela on last week, which was really fun, about raiding and builds and essentially what Hardstuck is trying to do with your puggable builds and getting people to try to raid without being elitist and show that not everyone is toxic. So this is a little bit less of a hot take type podcast. This is more about excitement for End of Dragon. So we're here with Teapot, Lara, and Muck, and I'm super excited because I kind of was out of my comfort zone with doing podcasts previously with having two people, which was Teapot and Muck. And then I picked you guys because I knew about possibly having high energy, sarcasm, and how you might play off each other. And I was like, I'm going to see if I can actually rein that in. So now, having three people, I think we have great possibly differences in opinion and contrast. So I'm really excited. So Lara, if you want to start with where everybody can find you first.
Sure thing. Hey everyone, my name is Serenity. I used to do these Music Guild Tries to Rate videos, and I've been on Twitch for about a year. You can find me on twitch.tv/Serenity. I stream guilds too almost every single day, and I do some variety as well. That's about it, I guess.
That's perfect. And Muck?
Hello, everyone. I am Mukluk Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire IV. I stream on Twitch every day over 3 years in a row, and I can be found on twitch.tv/Mukluk, Mukluk YouTube, and it's actually called Mukluk YouTube because the guy who owns the Mukluk channel makes shoes, and mukluklabs.com, which is the website that we've got with the guides that I've made and things like that for various games.
And of course, Teapot.
It's me. I don't do any variety. Not yet. I don't stream every day, but I do stream most days. Twitch.tv/MightyTeapot. That's the same thing everywhere. Easy social media. Hardstuck.gg as well to go and make fun of our builds. That's it.
So actually, just with what everyone has said, we've had a lot of new stuff for everybody. So Lara, how did your concert go after coming back from vacation? How was that? What did you play?
Oh, right. So for those of you who don't know, I am the guild leader of this music guild called Simai, and some people think that we're a raiding guild. We're not actually a raiding guild. We play music, and we had a big concert this Saturday. So we had like lots of people in the guild like practice songs for about the last 2 months, and this Saturday it all came together, and we had like 3 hours of in-game music, which was really cool. And I was really proud of everyone. We really had some cool stuff. Yeah.
That's so much. And everybody was talking about you doing the concert, and we have so it's going to sound super dorky, but my fiance and I are actually getting married next month, and everybody's like, you should do an in-game wedding, and they're like, you should ask Lara's Music Guild to play your in-game wedding so you can have live music. And I'm like, man, that'll be better than our actual wedding that's going to be a playlist on our We're poor.
Just imagining an in-game wedding getting DMCA struck.
Oh my god.
So, we might have to chat after this about availability.
There's a good spot for it in Lion's Arch. There actually is, though. This is true. There's a spot in Lion's Arch where a lot of people actually are not even real weddings as such. They just roleplay, do roleplay weddings.
Awesome.
It's there. It's a beautiful archway. The sun is there. The giant lobster in the background. It's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, someone actually got the wedding attire for me, and it was funny because I'm like, my main is a Norn. I love the Norn, and I know I got picked on a lot about it, but just the way, like their culture, everything about them, like totally matches me. And the wedding attire looks bad on a Norn. I'm not gonna lie. Like even with certain dyes, I'm like, I might just get. If we do it, I'll have to be on my Sylvari because you actually have like the pretty branch and the flowers. But at any rate, Muck, you actually have you said it was Mukluk Labs for your website, and it's up?
Yes.
Yeah. Anything you want to share with us about that? When did you actually have it finally launched? What's up there so far? And how do you delegate the difference between what you put on YouTube and what you're putting on the website?
So the website is supposed to be a place for the evergreen content, the stuff that's like guides, things like that, for the most part. And I've made guides for various games. I'm most known for the work I've done for like Guild Wars 2 stuff. So I've got a section of the website that is just Guild Wars 2 stuff. And at this point, I'm nearing having made 100 guides for the game. So I wanted a better way to organize it than just having a YouTube playlist that is just blah, with everything in one spot. So the website just has them, divided like, legendary crafting, PvE, PvP, stuff like that. And I get asked a lot, like, oh, well, what makes that different from, like Hardstuck's, or the wiki, or just going to YouTube, stuff like that. And honestly, it's just my website only has the stuff that I myself have made, and it actually has a section where it's like recommended other websites. Hardstuck is on there, by the way, Teapot. But if somebody asks me for builds, like I've got a few build guides for builds I myself played with that I enjoyed. I can tell someone how to play Druid. I can tell someone how to PvP on a Ranger. Someone asked me how to PvP on a Weaver. I'm like, I don't know. They fart, fire goes everywhere. My pets die. I'm not sure what's going on. So like, you want Weaver? You go over to Hardstuck and read whatever they wrote over there about Weaver. So I've got the general guides for getting started in all game modes, but for like the specific class stuff, I send people elsewhere. But I've got like the get to the point raid guides where I try to condense boss fights as much as possible. Just the stuff that I'm known for.
It's awesome though. Are you doing all of the coding yourself, just out of curiosity? Or
no,
is it like a set template, or?
I actually got a lot of help with that. A few months ago, the whole thing came together startlingly fast. A few months ago, I expressed my interest in doing that project on to my community, and a bunch of them were like, "Oh, let me do the back end of this. Let me do the front end. Let me maybe." And I'm like, "Okay, hold on. And I just grabbed all of them and put them in a Discord channel, and I'm like, "All right, this is the nerd channel now."
Sounds familiar.
I was like, I can't afford to pay all of you. I was willing to pay a person. And they just, it's kind of like, in cartoons when people fight and there's just like a dust cloud and there's crap flying out of it. It was like that. And then just like the website came together in like a month. So I was very, very fortunate. I was very lucky that these people that had experienced coding helped me with it. So I was more like the director, if anything. I was like, all right, I want this there. I want this there. I want to link to this, etc. So I kind of designed the whole thing, but they did the back end work. And
awesome. No, that's really cool. And speaking of websites and other things and possibly competitions, so Teapot, I don't know if you watched the podcast that I did with Mela last week, but I may or may not have pressed him and tried to pressure him about things that Hardstuck may be doing concerning the elite specs. And he's just the sweetest guy. Because he's just like, I can't say everything, because obviously we don't want people to like be prepping for something that may or may not happen. But so I believe, going off of that, when we first, or at least the last time we spoke about Hardstuck, it was just kind of like bare bones getting ready to be unveiled. And now your website is also up for that. So can you talk a little bit about that? What's already on there, the competitions you've done recently, and maybe a little bit of the contests you might be doing soon?
So yeah, the website is technically up. It's not done yet though. It's not launched. We're slow, very slow and lazy. So it's taking a little longer. There's a lot on it though. It's a lot. It's still pretty bare bones, but like the bones are starting to grow a little bit of meat on them at this point. Like that's not maybe a good image to think about, but there it is. Probably gonna get it up by the end of the month, roughly. Maybe a little bit longer than that. I mean, look, you guys know me, right? I'm always on time. I was on time to this podcast. I'm on time to the website launch. But yeah, I mean, we are going to be doing lots of contests, and the website is fairly broad in scope. It's going to be covering every game mode, every specialization, even core, hopefully, because we know that some people want to play a core elementalist, for example, and we'll try and provide something that will actually work, right, or work as well as it can. Okay, because ArenaNet, they love elite specializations, poor odd core specializations, not the best things in the universe, not gonna lie, most of the time. But we want to have stuff that is there as well. And yeah, of course, that includes the new elites too. We've already, we've already been scratching our heads thinking about what we're going to do when the expansion comes out. With regards to online guides, video guides, all that kind of thing. But yeah, as you exactly mentioned, Hardstuck is not just like a build website or a guide website. It's going to be much more of a community platform, an event platform there. You'll be able to see where all the events are, all the contests. We've got a benchmark contest to see who can be the sweatiest benchmarker for all the top DPS numbers on Willbender, Virtuoso, and Harbinger. We've got a 3v3 tournament. There's going to be another PV tournament. There's going to be loads of PvP. There's going to be loads of raids. We've got everything. It's too much to even talk about. But that's why I've got a calendar for it, okay? The calendar will show you what's going on. There's nothing on it right now, but there will be soon. Okay, easy peasy. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to hardstuck.gg, it is still definitely in its infancy. You'll be seeing a lot more of it very, very soon, though. I mean, the project is all very much going on right now. You know, we've got big old Discord server with all sorts of exciting things going on there. But yeah, website is definitely a big work in progress, big labor of love. A lot of people have been working on it in their spare time. A lot of, once again, very helpful volunteers. I mean, look, the Guild Wars 2 community, guys, big bunch of helpers. Love to see it. But yeah, you know, it's finally coming to fruition, and I'm actually really excited for kind of the final third of this year, actually, because that's when I predict that all of our systems and infrastructure will actually be done, which is nice.
That's awesome. And actually, what I was trying to get everyone in today and see what everyone would want to talk about and possibly debate, which I think would be a lot of fun, is first and foremost, the live stream, everything that's been announced so far for End of Dragons. What is everyone most excited for? Lara, what is your favorite thing? Well, what was your favorite thing from the live stream that was announced that you hope will be expanded on, or what you're shooting for?
There was this one moment when one of the developers mentioned skiffs, and when they talked about stuff you can do on your skiff. The skiffs are like these boats that are coming in End of Dragons that you can get on with your friends and you can go fish. But the developer mentioned that you can play music on your boat, which is like just straight up that just made me very happy. I just sat there like, they actually mentioned instruments on this live stream. This is the best day of my life, and I just cannot wait.
That comment was purely for your guild.
Exactly.
It probably was, honestly. I feel like they've
sorry,
actually been paying attention to a lot of those things, and it's like it's not just high-end DPS builds anymore. Like there's a lot of art that goes with it, and I believe even on Twitter, like Guild Wars 2 art is trending now. The memes are trending even more. People are paying attention to music and actually RP. So no, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I feel like they're actually looking at those things, which is why they mentioned it. So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. But I just want to get like to Xandrii or something, and then just get like boats everywhere, and then just have a huge boat concert. And that just sounds like the best thing. So that was like a highlight for me, but it's not just about what I want; it's about what the community wants. And I just think that just Canva looks so darn amazing. We got some nice little shots, nice little screenshots from Xandrii, and I'm just really excited to get into those maps. They talked a bit about how they want these maps to actually have longevity. Balfire was a great expansion, but a lot of those maps actually don't get visited that much anymore. A lot of players, they just kind of played through, and then they were just kind of done with it. So I'm hoping we're going to get maps that are a bit like Heart of Thorns, maps which have some legs, maps that stick around a bit, and just offer lots of stuff to do. So that's probably the thing I'm excited for the most right now.
I was actually really excited about just hearing about fishing, because I feel like, going along with the skiffs, I was like, we're going to have boat rides and we're going to have guild fishing trips, and it's going to be great. And I'm just coming from WoW in 14. It was kind of a big thing going, like, for WoW, you just kind of AFK fish, right? And then for 14, it's a full, like, you actually have a rotation for fishing, and then you have to, like, you'll catch a little fish, and then you'll have to bait a bigger fish onto your pole to like get a different fish, and then you'll have to hit a different button to increase the rarity and the weight. And so I'm actually really excited to see how Guild Wars 2 will do it, because I feel like the way combat is and how they've added, things like gliders for Heart of Thorns, which is super innovative. I honestly still like my glider better than my mount. I finally just got my Raptor mount in Path of Fire. And so I'm really excited to see what they do for fishing. But I know a lot of people were concerned that it was just going to be the fishing expansion. I don't know if any of you guys have heard that, or if you have any weigh in for that. If I think it's a lot more than fishing. I think it was really cool, but I know that a lot of people, especially like on the Reddit, were kind of upset about there being fishing integrated at all. So
yep, this is something that you actually see, and this is a very broad thing. We can probably get into this later. EoD is the anti-Path of Fire. Path of Fire was design bloat. They bloated the hell out of the game. Okay, if you look at, well, we'll talk about this later, but if you look at Scourge versus Harbinger, ooh, ouch. You're looking at Willbender versus Firebrand. Oh no, that's not good. And you can continue going on this way. In my opinion, they've actually been very conservative with their design. fishing, skiffs, siege tails, another mount, not layering on another feature. This is something that I actually really approve of. I think the game is very, very bloaty, right? You know, you'll go into a strike mission. Now you've got to pick up the orbs. Now you've got this random special action hotkey that blows you up. You've got damage reduction. Now you've got the way station everywhere to press an action key to break the bar, right? You know, you're playing less of the game and more of the UI, right? This is something that's happened a lot, actually, over the course of the game. And I think they're actively trying to prevent that getting more extreme than it already is. And this disappoints people, and I understand why it does, because it looks like the expansion is not going to have these absolute mega ultra, this is going to completely transform and layer on another layer of gameplay to every area of the game, like something like gliding or mounts does. It looks like it's going to be little activities that don't necessarily overlap with the rest of the gameplay, but are fun and exciting. Right? When it comes right down to it, I think that's what masteries are almost best suited as, like little mini games, little activities, a bit of extra flavor, but they should not in any way, like, well, one, invalidate old content, which is kind of what mounts do. Like, mounts kind of mess up old content pretty badly. Gliding as well, really, to be honest. And definitely way station stuff, like the Icebridge Saga stuff definitely invalidates a lot of older content. So I think going in this direction is better, but people are disappointed, and I understand why. But they're wrong to be disappointed, so they're wrong. Boom. Hot take.
We could go into a little bit more about that now, actually, because a lot of people are saying that they're doing it because of everything that's been happening with people wanting to leave World of Warcraft and finding something different. And a lot of people have been going to Final Fantasy XIV because it's closer to an MMO that World of Warcraft is, with the tab targeting, and they have almost the same raid structure, almost the same exploration structure, and it's completely different than Guild Wars 2. And so a lot of people have also been saying that the reason that all of these mini games are coming in and not something that's actually like changing the game completely or being a huge game changer and like having to play the UI or having things that are really, really intricate, unless you make them intricate, which is always a thing, especially with builds, that it's because they're catering to people coming over. What do you guys think about that?
I disagree with that. And the reason I say that is it takes time to set up this stuff. Like, it takes time to do the skiffs, the fishing, you know, make the camp in the background, like make the trailers. Like, even if they just rushed a trailer out and then were like, oh, we'll make this work later.
Right.
They had to have started all of that before WoW started crashing and burning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the timeline just doesn't add up. So I think it's very fortunate for Guild Wars 2 that what they're doing aligns with what's happening with WoW and FF14 and stuff like that. I think there are a lot of people leaving WoW going to both Guild Wars 2 and FF14. FF14 is definitely getting more people, don't get me wrong, but I think that is just because they are much more well-known.
Right.
They've been on their advertising game for many, many years. And Guild Wars 2 just was like, wait, no one's in the marketing department? Shoot, hire somebody right now. You know, they just got started.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think it's more to cater to them. I just think it kind of lined up that way.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it too. But Teapot, you look like you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say that, you know, on that note, Muck's absolutely right here. Like, you know, I think it's very appropriate that if anyone here played Guild Wars 1, if you played factions, when you went through the Canthan campaign, you'd become closer to the stars. This definitely is that for Guild Wars 2. Ender Dragons is, okay, the stars all aligning in its favor. Like all these other games, not good, okay? You know, it's not very good at all. And, you know, I would just add one thing to what Muck said there. He's completely right, of course. In my opinion, anyway. I would say the other thing here is that the big reason why people went to Final Fantasy, not Guild Wars 2, the familiarity was there as well. But look, if you ask a Final Fantasy player or a WoW player about Guild Wars 2, they'll just say, oh, is that game still alive? Right? I think that's kind of like the reason why you don't see more people doing it. You know, it's the B team. It's the MMO that no one thinks about anymore, unfortunately. So that comes into it. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right though with the familiarity thing. Like, Final Fantasy does have the advantage that it is literally WoW, except you're a cat girl. That is basically that game. And, you know, I mean, like, you know, the Final Fantasy people, they used to roast me for saying that. Then their own game director said that they actually wanted to make Final Fantasy World of Warcraft. So boom, I win. Haha.
And actually, speaking of Guild Wars 1, I know, Lara, you were actually playing that recently and trying to get through all of the campaigns again. Did you actually finish? Are you on Nightfall currently, or
It's
did
always
you?
an arms race.
How many times?
Mug keeps roasting me on Twitter every time I post a tweet. I'm like, we're going live with Guild Wars Nightfall, and then Mug goes like,
Every time.
stop showing the box in your tweet.
One
I'm
time.
very proud to own this box, okay? I'm very proud of this box.
So
No, but
what are you excited about with Cantha and going back? Do you have anything? I mean, a lot of people have been saying, Zan, don't spoil yourself because you haven't played Guild Wars 1. And I'm kind of over here like, it's eventually going to be a thing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish all 3 campaigns before EoD comes out or anything. So is there anything that you think might come up now that we're in the future? We know that the sea is no longer jade. It's been shattered. It looks like we've seen my trend, so my trend's possibly around. Is there anything that you can connect to Guild Wars 1 that you're hoping to see?
well, I think just Canva in general is just like a really exciting location for a lot of people. You know, we just talked right before this. We talked about sort of like the expansion not layering these new exciting features on top of the existing game, right? But I think something which people are sometimes forgetting about is that Canva itself is almost like a big selling point for this expansion. There are a lot of like MMO veterans out there who played factions back in the day, who have like great memories to like that whole setting, to that whole continent. And I've just seen a lot of people go like, "Hey, Guild Wars 2, I kind of forgot about that game. Oh, hey, there's a Canva expansion. That sounds pretty cool." So in a sense, I think just Canva is just such like a rich, unique setting. There's like so many interesting things you can do with that location. We've got like the Jade Sea, we've got Echo Vault, we've got Xandrii, we've got this giant city. I think for pretty much every like Guild Wars lore setting enthusiast like myself, like I'm just like obsessed with like reading the wiki. I think for all those people, that is just like a really, really exciting feature. Just like seeing what has changed, what has stayed the same, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything in specific which I would like to see return almost in End of Dragons, but for what I can see so far, they seem to be doing a good job at like creating something which feels fresh, but also sort of appeals to the nostalgia of all these people who played factions back in the day.
So since you're a big lore nerd and you've actually played through all of the campaigns for Guild Wars 1 multiple times, can I give you a little bit of a theory that I kind of have, and you can kind of judge my little theory about
Sure thing.
All right. So I think that Marjorie's family is somehow like either Canthan royalty and was kind of exiled, or had something to do with a family member helping Shiro. And so that's why her family doesn't talk about like their family, doesn't talk about their lineage, and why Marjorie originally, when her sister died, didn't want Cass to come back to meet her mom. Because her mom like just doesn't want to see people, doesn't want people to know or be able to tell that they might look like people from Cantha. And I know that it would have changed over, it's like what, 200 years or something like that for EoD. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my theory that I was really excited about. I'm like, Marjorie's totally part of this, and it had something to do with Shiro. And I finally saw the factions trailer, or at least the part with Shiro and like what he actually did. Such a cool character. I'm so excited to actually play Guild Wars 1 just because of Shiro. But what do you think? Do you think any of that makes any sense?
I feel like they could honestly just go anywhere. But a big like sort of lore point in the history of Canva is that at a certain point this emperor started like getting really authoritarian. They started like sort of banning all the non-humans from Canva. And they also started like banning anyone who disagrees with him. So some of your theory sounds like it could be right on the money. Like a lot of these Canvan refugees that we see in Tyria and stuff, they might have had ancestors who might have disagreed with the emperor or something like that. Regardless, though, I'm just really excited for the story.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm just glad that we're not getting an expansion which is like, yo, we're gonna kill another dragon. It feels more interesting than like, yo, Mordermoth is in the jungle and we're gonna murder him. I like it so far. I'm excited.
And so, boys, MightyTeapot, what was your favorite part of the live stream? Is there something you guys are really looking forward to, or anything that you're looking toward predicting for End of Dragons?
I want gameplay. I'm boring. I want to play the video game. Yes. You know, the story, it's all well and good, but Path of Fire demonstrates that you can't just have that. It's not good enough. The Path of Fire story was really good. It was well executed, and honestly, so was Living Story Season 4. But then you run around, and it's actually a desert. It was a bit too close to reality, I think, with what they were going for there. So, not great. I think that the really exciting stuff is actually the gameplay elements. Elite specs, hand them all over. Strike mission CMs, let's go. People will sleep on this stuff so much. The veterans and champions having new skills compared to just their normal, like regular, pathetic mob counterparts running around an open world. Yeah, these are all amazing changes. I really like the design direction they're taking with world gameplay. Elite specs, I think obviously it's amazing no matter what. It's gonna be epic gaming. Strike mission challenge modes there as well. Hard content that will actually be regular, not waiting 2 years for 3 bosses, right? So we're in business. Okay, we're in business. End of dragons. Okay, end of drought. Okay, well, hey, and look, CMC was telling us that on the stream there as well. Okay, just like me, staying hydrated. That's it. That's what I got.
I've been waiting to use that.
Yeah.
You're right. People are like sleeping on those strike CMs, I feel. I feel that's the big thing for a lot of people in this expansion.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually funny that you mentioned not funny that you mentioned challenge mode strikes. Of course you would, but there were some people that were still like, no raids. Challenge mode strikes, but no raids, no like harder raids. And I'm over here going, but you're like, strikes might be a better.
If it's difficult enough, then it's literally going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
But it depends if they make it challenging enough to appease them. I mean, I kind of hope that the normal strike missions are kind of like what they are now, where like a pug could go in there. Not the pugs on EU that ask for 150 LI, like a real pug. But like a pug could go in there. But then if they flip on challenge mode, like I want it to just knock their teeth through the back of their head. Mm. Like I want it to be so difficult that even the Redditors are like, oh Jesus Christ. Like that's what I would love to see.
What did we ask
for? When they first released Bone Skinner and they accidentally overtuned it and it was just like it was destroying everybody. Like, yeah, just throw one of those in there just to keep them in check.
So do you have anything you're really looking forward to as well? Or anything that really
definitely the specs. Like new lands is great, new story is great. But for me, the thing that keeps me playing this game after, I think for me, it's almost 6,000 hours, is the fact that I enjoy the combat gameplay. Mm-hmm. There's so many games that I've tried where, I had a big pretty world, maybe the story was good, I don't know, and I looked at the class selection and I could not find a class that I could really get into. And so I didn't play it for very long. This game has classes that I can really just be like, oh man, this is awesome, I love this, and I can get into it. So more selection with the elite specs, their weapon types, their selection. Like, right now my favorite PvP build is a druid using a short bow. Not using the druid weapon, which is a staff, but if I chose to do that, that's like a whole different type of gameplay. So, whatever the new elite spec is for the classes I enjoy, whatever their new weapon type is, combining it with the existing traits, making Condi builds, support builds, power builds, that excites me the most. Seeing Bram do something stupid for the 47th time is all well and good, but for me, it's the builds is the number one draw, and then everything else is second.
Nice. So speaking of those, everybody got a chance to try out did you guys try all 3 of the specs yesterday? Or do you feel like you tried them enough to talk about them with different gear sets and different trait lines and things like that, different weapons even for all of the new specs? And what did you guys think?
Finally, at long last, everyone will now realize that I was right about Path of Fire. Okay, and people are starting to recognize this because I played a lot of Harbinger and looked at a lot of the abilities and watched a lot of gameplay, got a lot of feedback with some of my sweaty gamers about stuff like Willbender, Virtuoso, in World vs. World, different game modes. And yeah, the really big problem with these End of Dragon Elite specializations is that they're well designed. I know that's a weird thing to say, but they are way too fair. to be honest. Like, they have very high numbers in PvE. Harbinger's like 40k DPS. That's whatever, right? It doesn't matter. They'll nerf that. Virtuoso, again, 40k. Again, it's whatever. And same with Willbender. Willbender's like 37, 40k, like that kind of region. But the thing is, in PvP and world versus world, you can really contrast the design, right? Like the strength of the design elements of these two things. And if you compare something like Harbinger to Scourge, it's not even close, right? Scourge does way more than Harbinger does. And it does it without any traits. And you can see this, right? If you want to say, if you play Harbinger and you go take all your DPS traits, you are literally Green Weaver, right? You have 11k health. You can only do damage. That's the only thing you do, right? Nothing else. If you do the same thing on Scourge, take full DPS traits, you're a full DPS, but you've got Connie Cleanse, 10 target barrier, you're 20k HP, you're fully ranged, you're unkillable, right? And you can revive people at the same time. Love to see it, right? That's good stuff. Again, look at Willbender, compare it to Firebrand. Willbender, you're a full glass cannon, like very selfish build, doesn't really support, doesn't really do anything, don't give any boons really. It's just not a good time, right? You do some good damage, awesome. And you're really fast. Yeah, all right. Okay, and then you look at Firebrand. Firebrand, boom, 37k, 40k DPS. If you go full DPS, still have Tome 2, still have Tome 3, still have an Aegis heal skill with no cast time, right? With no punish for using it whatsoever, because they actually made it even less punishing to use because they made mantras never need to be recharged now as well. You can take it, you basically have a free utility slot. You can take an extra thing there as well with boons. You have all of that baked into your baseline kit. And this is the ultimate problem. Path of Fire has finally brought its ultimate revenge onto the game, because it is now very, very clear how far the design of elite specializations got crept during Path of Fire. And now that ArenaNet has decided to actually design them in a fair way, with actual restrictions and not too much overloaded baseline kit, it turns out that it feels bad, right? And people are now going like, oh no, this doesn't feel very good. Well, so, yeah, it's because, for years we've been playing with Firebrand and Scourge. So, yeah, of course it doesn't feel good. And, yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. ArenaNet, not only do they have to actually tune these elite specializations, they have to bring the hammer down on Path of Fire. It is actually, in my opinion, necessary. Because right now, if you try and play Willbender in PvP, you could get reported. You're probably match manipulating. You could be win trading, right? That's griefing. Don't do that.
And on EU?
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about changing the name of this podcast to just Scourge.
Well, I know I talk about this a lot, but the thing is, it really is a big problem. And just to super analyze, like this is actually the biggest threat to End of Dragons elite specializations is Path of Fire, right? When I play on my Harbinger, I go like, oh, nice, I've got loads of DPS. But the thing is, you're not carrying. You aren't just destroying the encounter. Like if you had a choice between 6 Harbingers and 6 Scourges, you'd actually be insane to go with the 6 Harbingers, because 6 Scourges will flatten basically everything, and 6 Harbingers will just be like a nice, happy downstate simulator a lot of the time, right? Which again is actually good design, right? It's high risk, high reward. It's just that the Scourge is high reward, no risk, right? That's the problem here. And I am actually a little bit scared of the elite specializations, because I actually think that ArenaNet will stick with this design philosophy the entire time. We've seen CMC, the balance, kind of the balance guy, talk about a lot of this stuff. He was talking about it on stream, and he's probably involved in making sure that it's not too crazy in all these different game modes. But yeah, I think Path of Fire right now is a bit of a bully. It's bullying EoD pretty big right now, and it will be interesting to see how they actually manage that with the remaining ones, because as of right now, I think that, yeah, it's a little bit scary for poor old End of Dragons. But in a way, it's actually good, because what we see with End of Dragons is kind of where the game should be. If every spec in PvP was like Harbinger, Willbender, and Virtuoso, honestly, PvP would probably be in a really, really good spot. They're extremely fair, right? They're very fair specs. They do something, and they have a punish, right? They have a strength and a weakness. Virtuoso is probably, hey, you're gonna love this, Muck. I know you're not a big fan of Mesmers. Virtuoso is probably the least unfair build in the entire game right now, I would say. That is how CMC the actual build really is. It is extraordinarily fair. It's so fair, it's probably unplayable. Nice.
And it's actually funny. sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna kind of segue from that and also answer your question at the same time. So yesterday, I wasn't really drawn by any of these 3 new elite specs to play them much, but I wanted to know what they could do. I made one of each one. I went to the PvP lobby. I used all their moves on dummies so I could like recognize them, the visual cues, stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, let's try to fight these monsters. And I started queuing for PvP on my ranger. And of course, queuing last night, 90% of everyone you run into is running these new specs. So, I gotta say, like, the Virtuoso, I just started calling them no clones. I love fighting those. Like, they are the least confusing mesmers I've ever fought against. I would, after 1 day of experience, I would say they're probably not that great for PvP compared to their counterparts. Like, Mirage just terrify me way more than that. The Willbenders, I'd say they definitely have a place in PvP, PvE. I completely agree with everything Teapot just said, comparing them to firebrands. But in PvP, the one that gave me the most trouble after playing like 10 games in a row last night and running into dozens of these things was actually one that he was running double swords and a hammer. And it surprised me because I had seen with a Guardian with a hammer since like the 80s. And he would teleport onto me with any of his 18 different teleports and then put the ring of, you're trapped in a baby gate on me. And if it was just me and him, I would sometimes win, sometimes lose. If there was anyone else nearby on his team, though, I was trapped in a box, and I would get shredded. It was similar to when like a spellbreaker locks you down and then somebody else joins in.
There's actually a way to get 100% uptime on chill with that currently, with the hammer too.
Oh, fantastic! Something to look forward to.
Well,
yeah.
the last one though, the Harbinger. There was one, like, of course, there's lots of bad ones. It was a brand new class. It was 12 hours old. So there's tons of people that were bad at it. But there was one guy that I ran into like 3 games in a row, and he was really good, and it was giving me trouble. And he was using the Harbinger Shroud for no more than like 1 or 2 seconds at a time. He would use a mobility skill, get out of it, or he would like use it, ult you, get out of it, and 90% of the time he was just pistol 1, 2, 3. He would just stay away. I think all of his utility skills were movement skills, like Spectral Walk, Fleshworm, stuff like that. He would just constantly try to keep like a 900 distance, and he would just pick us apart because the Harbinger pistol is like an engineer pistol on crack. Like it does the exact same stuff, but all the numbers are way higher, and it's a real threat. And he would just constantly just shroud, reposition, turn shroud off, pew pew pew, and he was giving us a really hard time. And I was watching him, and I was just like, this feels like the way to play it. Because if he stayed in shroud too long, he'd just make himself squishy.
Yeah, Harbinger is definitely the kind of like the stronger. It's definitely the one that is currently doing really. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Segue into Lara. I want Lara's hot takes. Okay,
I know.
Say we're wrong. Say I'm wrong. Come on, do it.
No, it's perfect because
Start
we have
yelling
such
at me.
different like comparisons and different ways that they were tested for the first day. Like honestly, because when I did it, I was looking at feel because nothing has felt as comfortable for me as Elementalist. I just got into Weaver and I'm like in heaven. I'm just swapping stuff, seeing how everything works, not looking anything up, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And so, Lara, I will definitely ask you in a second, but for me, like, and what's really funny about it is going into like looking at Willbender just for the live stream when they're showing off the elites. You have Harbinger, you have Virtuoso, like there's some extra things that you can do with that, right? Like, but you're absolutely right, Teapot, I agree with you, is that a lot of it is very homogenized and very fair. And just in comparison, like I'm not even comparing it to Path of Fire, but I saw Willbender and I'm like, so it's a melee that can have 20 different gap closers. That's
Speed.
Cool. Like that's not super exciting to me, but it could be to other people. But for me, it was like, I'm really excited about the complexity that I use with, dual dagger core Ellie, or trying to figure out how to like max out my might all the time on like my Condi Tempest, or just starting Weaver. And I'm excited to do both Condi and Power Weaver and see if I can get it to work with a sword and a dagger rather than a sword and a focus, especially for Condi. And so I was really excited. And so for me, it's a feel thing. And so it's awesome that Muck was like, I want to see how I can beat them. And Teapot's all, okay, so in PvP and World v World, this is what you can do. These are like, good builds. This is what it felt like. There's a lot of people that purely looked at DPS and even changing the weapons away from their new weapon kits. And so I think this is really cool. So yeah, Lara, what did you think? How did you dictate what you wanted?
I think I do actually have kind of a similar perspective on this as you do, Xandrii, because I am not much of a theory crafter. I really like fractals, I really like raids, I like challenging content, but for me, Buildcraft is something which I am not super interested in. I just look at the benchmarks and I just copy what other people do, and then I just try my best. I'm one of those people.
Hey, that's okay.
So yesterday, I was like looking at all the traits and stuff, and kind of like trying to see some patterns. It was actually really obvious because all the traits were just like in a line. Like if you wanted to do like the power, you just took like the top
Yeah.
line.
Yep.
They
Speaking
were.
about being
Wow.
fair and homogenized, these are
Yeah.
all the things you take for this.
I was actually sitting there like, wow, I actually understand what's going on here. No, but so that's the thing. I don't really have much of a perspective on like, oh, this one is very powerful. This one is not as powerful. I was just like purely looking at like, how do I like the style of the specialization? Do I like their animations? How does it feel to be using these skills? And so far, I'm very positive. I really like how all these classes just kind of have something that sets them apart. Looking at something like Harbinger, it just like completely like turns Necromancer upside down with the way that the Shroud works compared to the other specializations. And stuff like how you just don't have any clones when you play Virtuoso. I think it's very interesting, and it almost feels like we're getting new classes in a sense. One thing which I definitely did notice, and I think this kind of plays into what you said, Teapot, about it feeling like fair specializations. The thing I felt was that they were all like relatively straightforward. Like there was no firebrands with like 3 different tomes that you go into and you
Not yet.
drop out of. I felt that the design was like you said, almost like fair and fairly straightforward. Which I think some people will maybe not like as much because they'll be like, oh, they'll be kind of used to like these sort of almost like a bloated elite specializations which we've had in the past. But I'm all for this so far. I had very, very positive first impressions. Also, just I went into a strike with a mission with my chat, and we just all were like, we're gonna just play these new classes or new elite specializations. We have no clue what we're doing, and we wiped on like one of the easiest strike missions in the game. It was just kind of wild to actually like.
I've got a guide for that.
For wiping?
But
It's
it's
kind of
fun.
wild to see what it's like when
Yeah.
you're suddenly doing this and you don't have like,
soon.
you don't have these certain specializations carrying you through. And of course, people still need to learn how to use it. It's not final.
Right.
But my initial impressions are good. However, now today I'm just gonna copy what the smart people did, and then I'll probably have a whole new impression.
Aw. See, I actually completely agree too, especially with trying to get more outreach and trying to get people from different games. And it seems like we were talking about a little bit about promotion before. We're like, oh, we don't have anybody promoting, the game internally. Okay, well, you're on it now. You know what I mean? And getting these people, from World of Warcraft, these little bit bigger streamers, like from those games, like Stay Safe. Lux has been playing a lot as well. There's a couple of other people. And having those graphics be so much more bright and in your face is actually funny that you mentioned that, because I love it, especially coming from the last game I played being Final Fantasy 14. And there are some people that will watch it and they'll watch combat for that. And they're like, there is so much brightness and all of these ability graphics. I have no idea what's going on. But then there's other people that are like, I can't play without really, really pretty graphics and having things be really flashy. And so I actually, especially for Virtuoso, for me, I think that's really cool. And one of the things that I've always tried to mention to people as a selling point is, because you don't have to, like, the farming for both games, for 14 and Guild Wars 2, your progress is kind of saved, and you don't have to play it every day if you don't want to. And so I always call Guild Wars 2 like a good addendum, as kind of like a selling point to start to get people over here. So you can technically play both. And I honestly think, especially with the graphics, that's a really good thing, especially for getting people, possibly a streamer from 14, to get the word out there for those people too. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. We actually went into, I tried to get as many new elite specs as possible, and I'd never led a raid before. And I've done Raid Wing 1 and Raid Wing 2 once. And I absolutely loved it. And so last night for me, for the elite specs, I'm like, we're all just going to go in there and we're going to fight Slothazor. And people are like, I've never raided before. And I'm like, I don't care. Get in here. Like, we'll be fine. And we actually kept like consistently getting the boss down to like 35% or something like that, with people who had never even stepped in a raid. And I'm like, see, easy. It's easy at being silly. And people are like, yeah, but these elite specs, like, I think someone actually mentioned that Willbender didn't have a lot of mobility. And I was like, what? But there's so much poison and you can't control it as much. So you might go past them into the poison. It wasn't anyone that was actually in the raid. It was someone in chat. And I was like, are you trolling? Like,
Oh, on that topic, super short story. So I found out when I was testing classes on the dummies in the lobby yesterday, the Willbender, it's their utility skill where they turn into a Beyblade for a second and they do like a fiery roundhouse thing. I forget the name of it. I found out the hard way, if you've got a target, you go up to your target and stop, similar to like Ranger Greatsword 3 when they like fly forward in a line. If you don't have a target, you just go forward and you have no control of your character until it's done with the animation. And I was by one of the dummies that is by a cliff. And I was like, all right, let's try this one. And I hit it. I'm like, no, stop. And I just yeeted myself right off the cliff, spinning off into the sunset. I'm like, all right, that one has no brakes. Okay, noted.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but there are some people that were like, oh, I don't necessarily like using dual swords for Willbender. I think a lot of people were using like, oh my gosh, what was it?
That's a great thing. They can use whatever they want.
Or something. But a lot of people were calling it like a Dragon Hunter skin or like a Dragon Hunter redo. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, just without the traps and the bows.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So what did people mean when they said that? Well, what they meant is that right now in PvE, if you're playing a power build, you're either playing Core Guardian or you are playing Dragon Hunter. And the issue is that people are having with Willbender is that the playstyle is essentially identical to those two builds. As in the rotational abilities are the same, right? You just rotate through in a very similar fashion, is essentially the complaint there, which is somewhat a valid one. It's kind of the issue with adding an offhand, not a main hand, and also not changing the mechanic, or not having like a very, very rotation defining profession mechanic, if that makes any sense. So because that you don't have this like ultra rotational defining mechanic or a main hand weapon, it is very, very similar. If, for example, Harbinger is insanely different because for such a long time now, if you play DPS Necro, you're like, oh, I guess I'll press all my scepter abilities off cooldown. Nice. But now, you now have the ability to, now you've got a weapons up to pistol. Now you don't want to camp scepter the entire time because pistol's really good. So you've got to manage these two weapons. You got to go in Shroud, but you don't want to be in there for too long because you've got to manage all your other cooldowns. It's almost like NG in some ways, where you're kind of keeping track of everything. You want to make sure you're using everything off cooldown, essentially. Very effectively. So like Harbinger is super, super different, and Virtuoso is honestly less different as well, right? Again, it's not like super altering it, but it definitely is a very different feel with the way it works mechanically. The issue is that in PvE, Willbender is very similar to Core Guardian and Dragon Hunter in the way that it tends to play out. It's essentially because, in my opinion, it's very clearly designed to be a PvP spec, right? A PvP kind of like roamer. Same with same in World vs. World 2. So it doesn't really have anything to define itself in PvE as of yet, but that's kind of the criticism there. Funny enough, though, I think that it's somewhat of an interesting one because it is very different. And I've got to say, like, just to kind of throw this in there at the end, because I kind of went a little bit hard on the EoD specs. I don't want people to think that I actually hate them. I actually love them. I think they're amazing. Like, I've got to say, the first three that we've seen here, Virtuoso, Harbinger, and Willbender, I am honestly blown away with ArenaNet's creativity. I really love what they've done here. Like, they are so different. I know that I said it's the same, but it's different. It's the same in the way you press your buttons, but mechanically it is extremely different. They're all very, very different in the way they operate there. And I love that. I think it's awesome. I think they have made a few mistakes that's caused it to feel a little bit samey, mostly because you're a bit railroaded into the decisions you make, which is something that Lara pointed out, which I think is definitely a bit of a problem. But yeah, I think that Arena has honestly knocked out of the park. I cannot wait to see what they've come up with next because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy, guys. It's going to be absolute lunacy with what we're going to see here, and I hope that continues. But that's the thing about
earlier when she said that there's no one like Firebrand with these like extra weapons with all the tomes, and you said not yet. I had this traumatic flash in my head of Elementalists getting like 4 new elements at the same time.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I thought it would be really cool if there was a way to like, because obviously once you finish out the Weaver trait line, there's essentially a way to double weave even more. And I thought it would have been cool if, and instead of getting new weapons, you got another element and actually add arcane into your element line instead of just having it be a trait and add like extra utilities. And I thought that would be so fun. I was like, triple weave, let's go, let's figure this out. So I thought that would have been fun, but I don't know if you guys saw, but it looks like all of the code and the weapons are in for the other classes too. So people already, we're not going to talk about it, but yeah, so my hopes and dreams have been dashed, but
it could be fake, could be a leak, and if it's a leak, we don't talk about leaks.
Something which I actually thought was very interesting is you were talking about the Willbender earlier, and how like someone in your chat said that they weren't actually very mobile. I feel like the thing about Willbender is that people just kind of had like the wrong expectations. Like everyone on Reddit last week was being like, "Oh, Willbender, it's just like Thief, but it's a Guardian. It is a Guardian, but this is a Thief." Turns out it's just very much still Guardian. It's a bit more mobile, but it's like nothing like Thief. And now I feel like everyone's kind of like turned around. Previously, everyone was like, "Oh, it's so unoriginal. It's just Thief," and now everyone's kind of like, "Oh, I thought it was like Thief, but it's actually just quite a lot like regular Guardian, but with a bit more mobility." I feel like that's where some of the negativity around the Willbender that I've seen on the internet kind of stems from. Just people having this expectation that they would be like teleporting around like constantly, but instead they're just kind of teleporting around occasionally, and it's still very much like the same Guardian we all know and love in a sense.
I just thought it was cute because everybody's like, it's gonna, it's gonna take over Thief, and like nobody's gonna play Thief. And my fiance, who's a Thief main, is over there going, "Yeah, I'm just gonna like steal every single boon they have. I'm literally just gonna keep them stunned and make it so that they can't move. Like, yo, yeah, it's gonna be so great." So it was really cute too, and it was funny because on the Reddit, like just again for me looking at it because I was so excited about how like Elementalist plays, and when I look at builds, I'm like, okay, so how can I make this work with this? How can I weapon swap for this and end up getting the extra torment with the vulnerability and make it so they can't move? For me, looking at Willbender was just, exactly what I said. It was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep being a melee with a gap closer. It was a lot more fun to play than I expected, but it was cute, like you said, seeing everybody be super excited about it, and now everyone's like, it's okay.
It is a beta. They can change things.
Mm-hmm.
People are very good at identifying something that's scary, right? So people were wrong about Willbender, but they were right that it had a potential to be extremely terrifying, particularly in a PvP context. So in PvP, Thief has been nerfed a fair bit, right? To the point where using one shortbow 5, which is Infiltrator's Arrow, it's like a very key mobility skill, costs 8 initiative. Like a Thief at base has 10 initiative. If you take Trickery, you have 13. So you use well over half of your resources to use this one skill, right? And Thief is still an absolute cornerstone in the PvP meta at high level. Like a lot of PvP players would say that the game is unplayable without Thief, right? You cannot win. You will lose if you don't have a Thief on your team at high level PvP. Right? Mm-hmm. So this is why people are very scared of mechanics like this. And I think they're right to be this way too. Not that it would necessarily be wrong. You can change the cooldowns, right? All this stuff. But that's the reason why people were kind of freaking out about Willbender a bit. Because I think there is definitely an alternate reality where it doesn't just teleport to you and then give you 5 points by dying very quickly. Where it is actually an absolute monster, right? A complete terror. And I think people are kind of right to be a little bit cautious around certain mechanics like that. It was definitely the one that stood out as the most potentially game breaking, right? That could like genuinely reshape, particularly PvP, with some of these. People were really scared of the courage trait that made it so you can't die. But I mean, hey, everyone was wrong about that. I was right though. Nice, because I said it was trash.
Is this like the third time you said that on this podcast so far?
I'm sitting here.
He's got like a card that says I was right.
Yep, I was right.
No, these comments are going to be fantastic. I'm so excited because any other time, like I'll put together, I'm like, it's going to be a really well thought out podcast. And I love asking things based on people's answers and stuff. And I've literally had people focus on like how many times I've taken a sip of coffee or how many times I like smile and laugh. And I think in one of mine from when I was doing the one of our podcasts, Muck, someone had said that I was like, I looked like a psycho because of how many times I laughed, and I'm like, I'm gonna look even worse today because I'm
Ignore.
like
On one of the
laugh.
videos I did with you, there was someone in the comment section who said, "Mutt, can you stop smiling? You've been doing that the whole time. You freaking creep."
Whoa.
And I just
Yeah.
said no.
Why are you having
I
any
just replied
fun
no.
doing these podcasts?
I'm sorry, I'm enjoying life more than you.
I know, and I'm over here going, that's a good thing, right? Like if I'm interviewing someone and they're smiling and laughing and
They're
talking
probably
about it,
from
I think
Reddit.
that's
Just
a good
ignore
thing.
them.
You have to
Oh,
look like you're
actually-
not enjoying yourself.
I know, right?
I don't like any of you. What am I doing here? I'm sorry, guys.
One
I
of
just
the other things I really wanted to discuss, though, as Teapot's over there
I was
trying to
gonna say
even
I
more
just need to have my revenge because whenever I stream, the chat always calls me an idiot, always debates me. The YouTube comments always make fun of me. I now have my opportunity to say that I was right. Okay, so there you go. And and I'm just going to ignore the comments. I'm just going to turn them off. Right, boom.
Yeah,
Going to
that's
block
okay.
them all.
I mean, it was actually funny because I finally had my first posts on Reddit, and one of them,
Uh-oh.
speaking of being called stupid, was so I was hoping for great. No, we can. It's okay. So it's elite specializations. It's going off of that. It totally connects. So I was memeing with my fiance. Like we were having popcorn, and we do this thing where we say we're gonna do something, and then we end up just hanging out and talking about something or other. And a lot of times it's Guild Wars too. And so we're like having popcorn previously and a couple of drinks. And I'm like, wouldn't it be great if Revenant got Greatsword and then the legend was like Traherne? And he's like, why would it be Traherne? And I was like, because he had like Khalidbolg, right? And it was like really intense and sad and all of this stuff. And even though he was a necromancer, like he still had a Greatsword. And so I made it, and he like obviously it wouldn't work because technically if you haven't played through everything and you have End of Dragons, you have access to the elite specs. He's technically still in game in Heart of Thorns, but and so it would make like some raids and stuff moot, like because he's still there, so it wouldn't line up with the story. And so I posted it on Reddit as a meme, and I was like, guys, hear me out. Revenant, Greatsword, Traherne is the legend. And someone literally was like, wow, you're really stupid. And I was like, okay, first of all, it literally says, guys, hear me out. It's like tagged as a meme, like as a joke. Everything I said, I was like being silly, but I actually had like a good stance for it. Like every single person that commented, I commented it back, and I was like, okay, but what if? Okay, but what if? Especially for like all of this story stuff. And this person's like, you're dumb. And I was like, okay.
Honestly, I think that idea would be funny because Traherne was a necro, and I remember the mission where some 3 flesh golems, and I was like, you overpowered piece of crap. I've got 1. So if they made Revenants channel Traherne and become better necromancers, I think it'd be funny. They'll never do it, but I think it'd be funny. Necros would be so mad.
Yeah, and then the other argument was, well, that wouldn't, that totally works for a Cantha expansion. And I'm going, you got a Char that ended up turning into a Revenant for Heart of Thorns. Like, what?
Yeah. That sounds horrifyingly plausible, actually.
See, and I thought it was funny, and it was just funny that like everybody kept like commenting on it, and I'm commenting back like whiplash, like, yo, no, this would totally work. But for the most part, I was just memeing, and people were so upset. And then my second one was saying that I didn't really like the way Willbender looked compared to like other specializations that were already in the game that I've even played, because obviously I haven't even played all of them. And then someone was like, well, it's just a new thief, you're dumb. And I'm like, that is your comment? Just speaking of people, like, what?
I am just imagining that it is going to be Traherne, and then you get to go on your own podcast, and you'll get to tell people that they were wrong and you were right.
Yeah. See, it's good, isn't it? Right? Okay, it's exactly what's going to happen. You get the moment that I am now enjoying. Let me tell you, it feels great.
Right.
Okay.
And then, but the better part was the same person said, no, it should be Balthazar, and I'm like, you literally just said that it couldn't be Traherne because he's alive and Heart of Thorns.
Just reply no, Kraukatoric. Just match their insanity and raise it a level.
But it's just like, technically, he's
that's how you handle these people.
Path of Fire too.
Xandrii, like when someone's like, "Oh, the moon landing was fake," just be like, "You believe in the moon?"
I know.
Like you have to just match their insanity and raise it a notch to where they're like, "What?" It's the only way to handle it.
I like that energy.
Revenant is not getting an elite specialization. Instead, they're getting light armor. I'm calling it.
Revenant
I
gets
wasn't-
Queen Jenna in line with that because I mean, look, you guys were talking about overpowered characters. Yeah, we kill the queen. It's in the story. She's dead. Okay, Trahan gets 3 flesh golems. Queen Jenna has a feedback bubble so big it covered all of Divinity's reach.
City.
Yeah, there you go.
I
That's
don't think
imbalance.
Queen Jenna was real to begin with, honestly.
True.
I think Queen Jenna is one of Anis's clones. I think Queen Jenna was killed initially, and that's why Thackeray is always kind of kept away. So anytime Jenna's going to do something, it's no Thackeray because he would totally know if
You
he
would
spent
get
more
like
time with her. And
you would
so
get like
that's
an elite skill. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine.
When I saw her do that bubble above the entire city, I joked with my chat that we need to load her into like a trebuchet and launch her at Kraukatoric and have her make that bubble in midair. So just like shield slam him with a shield the size of Divinity's reach, and then boom, problem solved. She can just conjure up a slide on the way down. She'll be fine.
I just want an elite skill that summons like Logan whenever you want to.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in trouble, you can just summon him.
Things
I think
you just have to
changed
go barefoot for
inside
that.
the blighting pod.
I have this meme for every time we see
Zoja.
Logan. Literally
Oh,
every
no.
time he says,
Oh.
it, I go, I would do anything for my queen. Hair
Yeah.
flipping everything. Every single time we see him, and people are like, you know, he's more pertinent to the story than you make him out to be, Zan. And I'm like, oh yeah, every single time he speaks, he like states the obvious and then goes and gets hurt and then comes back with his shirt off and tries to show off for everybody. Yes, exactly. He's very pertinent to the story. I mean, obviously it's a joke, but so multiple person mounts like the siege turtle, guys.
Nice segue. Very smooth.
I was
He's
actually
like,
asking,
Logan. Speaking of mounts, siege turtles. Mm.
No, but I was actually asked about how I felt because legitimately, coming from Final Fantasy XIV, one of the things they have on the MOG station, which is kind of is their shop. It's not technically integrated to the game. There's like a button that you can go to the website in game that's on your UI. So, but regardless, multiple person mounts on the shop are more expensive than regular mounts. And then there's also, you have different data centers that you can be on. And if you purchase a mount that is account wide, it's also more expensive. And so people were asking me how I felt about having a multiple person mount that's just that you would essentially get, obviously, probably through story, unlocking it the way you do in Path of Fire. And so they're like, how do you feel about multiple person mounts? Like, don't you think it's kind of cheating? And I'm like,
And WoW,
No,
you can unlock it through gameplay.
yeah.
There was tons of multiple person mounts you could unlock through just basic gameplay in WoW. You know, you'd have to like farm gold, grind gold, stuff like that, but you could just get it with playing the game.
Yeah, and a lot of people were upset about, or not upset, they were just asking me how I felt about it because it's like, you know, using the siege turtle to take somebody who like might not have a mount yet and needs help getting somewhere to get that person to get somewhere. And if I felt like that was cheating, especially for exploration, and
It won't do that.
mean, you have more portals, even though like, but
It's also slow.
even if it was a thing.
Well, I
that-
mean, we don't know that yet.
They actually mentioned this. Yeah, they said it's not fast. They
Yeah,
actually said it's not
exact
fast.
stuff.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
stream. Yeah, it's not fast.
The exact
Do you
same.
see the update from Grouchy? It was on someone's
Yeah.
Twitch stream just
Oh,
today, and he confirmed it won't be usable
yeah.
in World v World.
If
Sad siege noises.
they actually it was a little bit more than that. He said that it will only be added to World versus World if it won't make the game mode worse. Right now, that scares me a little bit. Okay, because what if a lot of people actually want it? I don't know. I don't think it will be good. Okay, you know what? I'm boring. I don't like combat mounts. I don't like combat masteries. I like pressing my buttons, and I think it's really scary when stuff like mounts and masteries take you out of the combat system. I think instead of it has the opposite effect. Like stuff like special action hotkeys for break bars, that does not teach people about break bars. That teaches people when the blue bar is there, you press your special action hotkey and you get the opposite effect. People don't never use their CC skills. And if the siege turtle is too powerful, then it's going to everyone's going to, instead of actually playing the game, everyone's going to waddle around in a giant turtle and fire giant laser beams, which although very spectacular, I don't think it's very, very helpful.
War will begin.
Yeah, it will indeed. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of the things that I'm somewhat scared about, to be honest, with this sort of thing. I hope they don't do that too much because, you know, look, if we've got 9 new elite specializations, that's what I want to play. I don't want to be playing the siege turtle as the elite specialization. I want to play my profession elite specializations.
I actually feel the same way, funnily enough. Like when people were talking about when I started playing the game, they're like, just to go off of mounts in general. Are you going to use your 80 boost and get your raptor and then go back? And I'm like, no. I love to be on foot. Like, I love actually checking these things out. And I also have this weird habit that's anything that's in front of me, even if it's a critter, and this is going to make me sound really terrible, like, I want to fight it. Like, I'm going to blow it up with my fire. And people are like, that's weird.
Note to self, never go to the park with Xandrii. You want to
like,
feed the ducks? I want to fight the ducks.
But how are you going to get this, mastery that's all the way up here for this? And I'm like, well, I'm going to figure out a way. It was like, I don't know. I think it's really cool. So I completely get what you're saying about the Siege Turtle Teapot. And honestly, I think it would be cool for me for probably like the first day and getting all of the masteries, only because I like the idea of leveling on top of leveling. Like when I unlocked all of my mastery stuff and people are like, oh, welcome to the game. I'm like, oh, it's more experience for my masteries for leveling. And people are like, yeah, it's really great, isn't it? Like such a grind. And I'm like, I love this. I love leveling. I love map completion. So I'll probably do that. And then afterwards, like if they add like all of the masteries to it, like they did the previous mounts, I'll probably get all the masteries and then I probably won't even use it afterwards.
Right, it's debate time. Masteries, not good. Okay, actually, bad system in this game. Why? Because they are in no way linked to the actual thing, right? When you unlock gliding, what do you do that actually relates to gliding in any way? Nothing. That's right. All you do is you kill 1,000,000 spiders, right? Oh, wow, now I can glide. Oh, incredible. I killed 1,000 spiders. I now have the magical ability to go in a ley line. I don't like it. XP, not very creative. I actually think that masteries are... I mean, don't get me wrong. The masteries are really well implemented. The actual things are really good. Acquisition method, very poor. Not good. However, yeah, obviously, and this is actually one of the reasons why I'm so optimistic for fishing. I have absolute confidence that ArenaNet will do an amazing job of making fishing really interactive, intricate, interesting, right? And actually fully expand it. It's not like, oh, throw your rod, get your fish. No, there's going to be a lot more to it. I put money on it, okay? Although, I lost a bet recently. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Okay, that's another thing entirely. Okay, I bet Georges he could get a ArenaNet partner back. He can't. I lost the bet. Unlucky. Anyway, that is not a story.
Just
here.
His dirty laundry.
Yeah.
I think I actually have to edit this video before putting it on.
No, that's fine.
This is sticking in mine.
I'm over here going, Zan accidentally mentioning something she shouldn't have. The whole beginning where we're trying to figure out how to get Teapot's video up.
The whole title of this video just changed to Teapot Bullies X ArenaNet.
Yeah.
Okay, so to counter that, especially with people talking about replayability and how they want to change that in Kantha, I agree with you on the implementation of having the experience and trying to get the mastery points and having the different mastery levels and not having it actually pertain to what you're doing on the map. I totally get that. And I completely agree. Like have a test, have something like that. Like you have to fly this far and get to this area and then you can unlock, something that would have to do with making that easier. But I actually like the idea that there's an incentive to go back to other maps to try to get those masteries. So if they changed masteries like specifically for gliding to tests like that, and then use the extra experience system for something else, I think that would be really cool because it actually gives longevity, or at least in my opinion, like as a new player, it's neat for me to go back and have incentive and complete checking out the world, and then at the same time, I can do my world completion for my legendaries too. So, and it's actually, I feel like it makes you see more people on the map for, hearts or metas and things like that. So you might not necessarily want to do them, but you're like, oh, I really need this mastery. I have to get this experience. So I think that that's, a cool way to have it in there. At least the extra leveling bar once you're at max level. Because for me, that's cool. It's almost like a prestige mode.
Zan, if you don't already know, when you get max level, that extra, even when you already have every mastery in the game, it will keep leveling up and you get spirit shards every time it levels. So the mastery system itself, it's a gating mechanism. I mean, jumping mushrooms, updraft gliding, raven locks, which are my least favorite because they put a wall in front of us and then made a mastery point to get past that wall. Like all of those, it's just gating mechanisms from having us jump to the end too quickly. It's like agony resistant fractals. The whole system with agony resistance is set up just so that you're not like, oh, hey, fractals, wow, there's 100 levels. Well, let's just do 100. So you don't just skip right to the end. some of them are like, like the ability to auto loot. I always recommend that to people first. The ability to craft legendary things, that stuff is cool. But most of the rest is just gating mechanisms for their respective zones.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I think the concept is cool because it makes me feel like, regardless of the gating and it not actually pertaining to what you're trying to actually achieve with those, like, doing loops with your glider or having your advanced gliding or going on ley lines, like, I do think it's actually cool to see more people out on the map because of that, and even afterwards. But at least it's cool for me, especially coming from other games where people are like, wow, you're really excited about that? Do not a lot of people play the game? And I'm like, yeah, well, when you played WoW, you raided or PvP'd and then you AFK'd in. Or for 14, like, you hung out in a city and listened to people play music, which was really cool. But you would queue for all of your savage raids from that city, and that's it. And you wouldn't go anywhere. So for me, it's like, it's cool.
Lara,
actually
is she bashing music?
No, that's not what I meant.
Ooh, drama.
Focus on Teapot saying things that you don't want to hear.
Oh my god.
And what I am actually very curious about, like, talking about this, like, experience being unrelated to the mastery, I wonder how fishing is going to work. Because we know fishing is going to be a mastery. It would be very strange if you get better at fishing by killing mobs instead of getting better at fishing by actually fishing. I have to imagine it's going to be like some fishing XP or something, right? Like,
It'll be mastery XP.
As long as the pole doesn't break after 25 uses, I'll be relieved.
Oh, there, dude. Do you want an unbreakable fishing rod, dude? Okay, it's gonna be in the gem store. There it is. Ooh,
Wait, you want a
nah.
legendary?
I think it will. No, I think it will actually. I'm not actually sure about that. Maybe.
I love when the gears turn in Teapot's head because he makes all these weird noises.
I know. He starts playing with his hair, and then he
like
looks
one of
just
them needs to be
completely
greased or something.
disgusted.
That's a very interesting question. That's a big question. Will it actually have like a gathering tool? Will it be an extension of the gathering tool system? That's a very interesting question, actually, if they would do that. I think it won't be because masteries typically aren't like that. They're typically like some kind of button you press. So maybe you can't break your fishing rod, but you will be able to get an incredibly fluorescent one, or maybe your fishing rod wearing a cod piece in the gem store. So you'll be able to do that.
Or maybe a fishing rod where you somehow like try to get the fishing rod to go, and then all of a sudden there's these little choya that just like start to catch and eat the fish, and then you're like, no. Because they look like they destroy everything they're trying to gather for you. Yeah. Like,
just yeet a choya into the water, it comes up a minute later holding a fish.
It's like that, like catfishing, like where you like, no, never mind. You catch them with your hands.
Okay.
For catfishing, you've never heard about that?
You know, I just thought that was going a very double direction, though. With the catfishing people. Yeah, I just thought, wow, okay. I mean, fair enough.
Definitely editing this video.
I'm definitely not.
Oh no, we gotta leave the juice. You know, like why are you editing the best parts out? Like,
I know, right?
New timestamp at 1:40. Teapot talks about catfishing.
So, is there anything that you guys are expecting? For since we had for EoD, it was just a first look. Is there anything that you guys are hoping to see? Hoping that they change? Like, are you guys still hopeful for things like raids? Or even like for me, a big thing was like all of the artwork that you got to see, and I'm hoping to see a little bit more about like how some of the areas in the map for Cantha will look, especially with the artwork because it's so pretty. I'm really excited about the music. It looks like McLean is working really, really hard on it, but also teasing people with Twitter posts by showing sheet music with no actual music on it. So is there anything that you guys are really hopeful for that they might actually do in another live stream other than Elite Specs, or is there something that you're hoping for that they might save for release?
I got two things that I'm hyped for. One is the just more specs to play around with. I already went into that, so I won't do it again, but that really excites me. And the second thing is just their renewed energy in advertising their product. I've seen Lazy Peon on YouTube talk about it. Wow Krindor, who he's got 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he got sponsored to do a little thing. And he said in the video, he was like, I was literally doing a video on MMOs to play as an alternative to WoW, and Guild Wars 2 was on the list. And then they asked me to do this sponsored video. So I was like, yeah, I just installed the game. Why not? So yeah, that brought a lot of eyes, and I'm sure some of you are seeing it too. But like, you know, the number of viewers at our Twitch streams, it seems like all of them is going up because more people are interested. The number of hits on our YouTube videos, you know, is going up because of just all these additional people. It makes me really happy to just see all these other people coming in and enjoying this thing that I like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, pretty artwork's good too, but this other stuff.
I know. Well, I actually had a full video about the promotion that I was really excited about, and people were like, "Oh, they do stuff with Prime every year," and I was like, "But the idea is that it's in like
Prime,
association and correlation with that right now." So on top of that, especially for a streamer, it's like, oh yeah, so there's a thing where if you have Prime Gaming, you know, the free sub ad, you know, that makes it so you don't have to watch ads and emotes. But also, if you're playing Guild Wars 2, they have these little things, and especially for new players, like having the karma and the bags and the mini pet is really good. You know, partnering with DX Racer, and just the amount of responses, even just on Twitter, that you're getting from people. Like, they're very involved, and a lot of it is very transparent, which I think is a huge step in the right direction. So no, I absolutely agree with you. Lara, is there anything you're hoping to say?
Well, just talking about just coming back to what Mike was saying before, I think it's just like so exciting that we've got something on the horizon. I think it's so good that with all these people like coming in, checking out the game, we can tell them that there's something coming in the future and that the game is in a good place. I think it's so interesting how much better it is to have an expansion looming over there than it is to just have some living world season that doesn't get a lot of people excited. Regards to talking about things I'm excited for, I'm excited about the two mastery lines that haven't been revealed yet. They told us that there's going to be 5 in total, I believe. We've gotten 3 of them so far. I just wonder if those are going to be like minor mastery lines, like, oh, you unlock a vendor over in Kaining or something, or if it's actually going to be like some exciting feature that we don't know about yet. I feel like there's a chance that
opens doors.
Exactly. I hope not. I feel like there's a chance that we might still see some more surprises, like maybe like another mount or something like that. Something which is straight up hasn't been revealed yet because it's too early.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for too. And I kept trying to tell people, like people that were kind of complacent about certain things about it, I'm like, guys, it's a first look. It's a first look. Not even ready. Like, so go ahead, Teapot.
I just want to see them be consistent. I think consistency is the thing that's always held this game back and always held ArenaNet back. They've got a lot of energy right now. I'm loving the communication style that we've got from CMC Grouch and the rest of the team. I think they're doing a great job, like everyone who's involved in communications from ArenaNet right now. I want to see them keep doing it. I want to see that continue after the expansion. We need to see a lot of balance patches, right? Like, let's look after PvP and World War a little bit better, particularly with Alliances coming out. Let's actually take care of this game mode. Let's actually discuss the issue with raids, right? Like, what's going on with raids? What is that? Are we going to just replace them with strikes? Great, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. But let's actually talk about that. Let's have the conversation. Maybe they come back with an easy mode. What about old content? Why is Whisper of Jormag still completely broken? Like, why are all these strike missions just not working super well, right? Like, why is this content broken? Why are raids still a bit bugged? Like, are we going to have raid easy modes? Is this old content going to get updated? These are a lot of things that I want to actually hear from ArenaNet, because there is so much in the game right now, but it's so radically inconsistent. And this is something that I see a lot of new players actually trip up on a lot, is that they'll experience the game at all these different stages in its life, and it's so different at every single one of them. There is no smoothing of this curve. There is no real standard for this is what Guild Wars 2 feels like to play, right? Across the entire board. And I think this is something that I would really like them to talk about that they haven't really addressed as of yet. What's going to happen? What is Guild Wars 2? What is Guild Wars 2 supposed to be? And are we going to see that rolled out across the entire game? I think that would be a very, very broad, very meta topic there, but in my opinion, it is an important one.
Yeah, actually, it would be really cool if with their live streams, if they added in something like that, like even opened up their forums and, I obviously have to weed out like the meme ones, but just be like, guys, what are all of these questions that you have? And then we'll answer them on a live stream instead of just like elite specializations for things like that. So they can talk about the direction that they do want to head in. Obviously, they did mention that End of Dragons isn't it for Guild Wars 2. So that would be really cool. And then on top of that, just an actual schedule. I know one of the arguments for everything is, well, they have, such a, like their development compared to other MMOs is a very small number of people. And other MMOs say, okay, at this time, that's when we release this patch at this time. And they have like the full year planned ahead. And what people say for, Guild Wars 2 is, well, they announce it when it's ready. And it's like, well, maybe more people would look forward to it and you would have like a higher population around those times when the patches are going to come out if people knew that there was going to be a patch schedule, especially leading to an expansion. Like maybe if they wanted to do something, have an expansion be like every 2 years and with a bunch of patches. And that's just, I feel like it's something that's raised a lot of hype for other games in the past that I think would help. So that would definitely be a question that I would ask if they did something like that. But
yeah, I can see both sides of that. Like one, announcing dates and like a roadmap is kind of what you described. Definitely builds hype for sure. But at the same time, they have to be able to commit to that. And if they too many times have to push something back, then that looks bad as well.
New world.
I do totally get release it when it's ready. I'm totally fine with release it when it's ready. I think anyone who, Cyberpunk was a recent example of that gone wrong.
yeah.
But release it when it's ready is the right way to go. But communication's good too. And if you occasionally have to be like, hey guys, we were going to have a patch out tomorrow, some stuff went wrong, and we don't want to put you guys through that. We're going to push it back one more week, get this fixed before you get it. That's fine. That's totally fine if they have to do that on occasion. But if they feel that too nervous that they would have to do that too much, then then they have to just kind of choose.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we should probably wrap up and talk about where we can find things because I know there's streams that have been postponed. Everyone has things to do. This is going to take like probably an hour to even upload for me. So yeah, go ahead, Muck, if you want to tell everybody once more where they can find you.
Still twitch.tv/Mukluk or the Mukluk YouTube channel if you need guides or anything like that. Mukluklabs.com is where I do most of my guide projects and put the long-term stuff there. So if you're looking for guides, new to the game or stuff like that, I might be able to help you out.
And Lara?
You can find me over on twitch.tv/Laranity and also on youtube.com/Laranity. However, my Twitter unfortunately was taken. So on Twitter, I am twitter.com/Lara_IRL because Laranity was already taken on Twitter. But just type in Laranity and you'll find me.
And Teapot, go ahead with my letting people chill right now. So
Yeah, I like it. Okay, see some of the things from tea time that's spilling over here as well. Love to see it. Yes, it is indeed. It's still me. Okay, I haven't changed my URLs just yet. You can find me twitch.tv, MightyTeapot, YouTube, MightyTeapot, Twitter, MightyTeapot, Hardstuck.gg. That's it. Go and look at all that stuff. Okay, it's all there most of the time, and I'm always on time.